record to the cloud. And I apologize that for some reason our monitors are not working today. I don't think it's going to be that important, which is good, but it's rather frustrating. It was important in my other class where they had to watch a video and everyone had to look at the front. Okay, so welcome to class. As I said, you're in somewhat different groups today because we're going to be having breakout sessions where you're going to talk about the topics that you post to the discussion board about, and we'll come back together as a class. I'm going to describe that in a bit. Okay, so what did we talk about last class? We talked about your ChatGPT generated essays on the topic of your choice. You're not in your spot. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Thank you. So we're in groups according to what topic you chose. So we talked about your ChatGPT generated essays, which was a really fun assignment. We found that some students, Genesis, had generated a particularly effective essay and got it to express with a personal voice, which was very, very impressive. But many people found that their essay lacked a personal voice. And even though it was acceptable, that it really didn't express what they might have said about their topic, much as they liked that topic, and certainly didn't express the enthusiasm that they might have found. We left with open questions about the whole thing of, was this really writing, using ChatGPT to write an essay? Is it cheating? Is all we're doing in this class is finding out better ways to cheat? We're going to be addressing some of those questions today. And as we proceed for the rest of the class, for the rest of the course, in writing your essay about AI, and then ultimately your final project as well. So it was a very interesting discussion. Today, we're in different groups than usual, as I said. You're going to be talking about specifically the questions surrounding AI that you thought about and did some reading about, and you're going to discuss that among your group. And I've got some things for you to specifically come back to the class when we do get back together as a class to address about your topic and about your articles that you read. Then we're going to start moving into a more general section of the class where we discuss rhetoric in general. And I'm going to introduce you to the sections on Purdue OWL on writing an argumentative essay and using rhetoric. That's going to be an assignment you have on that for next Tuesday. And as leading into that, then I'll describe the assignment for next Tuesday, which is reading sections of the Purdue OWL and identifying a question that you think you might want to study about AI and write about, a thesis statement that you think you might have about it, and then developing some arguments about it that you might use and trying to categorize them based on the description of rhetoric that we're going to do. Okay, so let me introduce that now. And the reason why I want to introduce that assignment for Tuesday now and describe it in greater depth at the end of the class, as I always do, is I want you to be thinking about it as you're having your discussion groups and when we get back together as an overall class and you talk to the class. So what the assignment for Tuesday is, first you're going to read 3 pages of the Purdue OWL. Anyone remember what OWL stands for? Online Writing Lab, the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is your grammar textbook. Isn't it wonderful that Dr. Weiss says you don't need to buy a textbook, instead we use an online resource? Well, this is going to be an example of these would be sections of what you would find in a grammar textbook, but they're there on Purdue OWL. So you're going to read 3 sections or pages of the Purdue Online Writing Lab. One is about argumentative essays in general, what makes something an argumentative essay. One on developing a strong thesis statement, which really anchors an argumentative essay. And then the rhetorical strategies. I guess this is probably a good chance for me to just throw it out there. What do I mean by rhetoric or rhetorical? Anyone want to say anything about that word? You hear that word? Have you heard that word before? What is rhetoric? Man, I couldn't have made a class more silent than by asking that question. You guys are normally so talkative. Haley, be careful about laughing. You're gonna get called on. No, anyone? Come on. Someone knows about it. Actually, totally. Yeah. I'm sorry. A question. So that is a rhetorical question. So yeah, no, that you're 100% right. And it's interesting because that is a different use of the word than we're going to be using it in this class. But you're right. When most people think of rhetorical, they think like, I ask a question like, I don't know, why do we bother with English, or something. It's obviously there's an obvious answer to it, so I just sort of ask it and don't expect there to be an answer. That is not what we're going to be talking about in this class. Yes. Purpose? No, that's okay. That's good. So Genevieve says the purpose of your writing, and that is certainly a part of it. The purpose might be trying to convince someone. In an argumentative essay, it is convincing someone. The rhetoric you use is how you get there. What are the things you use to convince someone, either in your writing or in your speaking, or in general? What are the forms of convincing that you use? And we're going to discuss in a later class. There are three principal ones that have been typically identified. This goes back to the Greek philosophers. Who is it that is into Greek philosophy here? Isaac, was that you? No, someone in this class. Oh, you were, Ramir. Thank you. So you're into Greek philosophy. Do you know who wrote about rhetoric and who we still refer to when we talk about rhetoric? It was not Socrates, but that's a good guess. Someone a little later than Socrates.
Later?
Yeah. Aristotle. Excellent. Thank you. You passed your philosophy exam. So Aristotle wrote an essay on rhetoric that we still refer to this day as ways of convincing people. And he identified three principal ways of convincing people: logos, ethos, and pathos. Those are not the three musketeers. So there's three forms of rhetoric. We're not going to go in detail into those in this class. We're going to do that in the next class after you will have read about them. But basically, logos is probably the easiest one. What is meant by logos? Logic. It's there. And so you convince someone by being logical and appealing to their logic. Ethos. Anyone know what that might be? Ethical, which it includes ethical, but that one is sort of trying to fool you. That's not entirely what it means. I'm sorry. Yes, Rochelle. Celebrity endorsements is a good way. So it's basically using some form of authority. It's saying that this person is an expert about that. Now, why a celebrity is an expert on anything, I don't know, but often they are regarded as, oh, they must really know what they're doing because they're wealthy and they, like things. So that would be a good example of using ethos. Or if you have, an expert on any topic, if you quote Dr. Weiss explained this about that, and he has a PhD in Shakespeare. I'm using, when I talk about Shakespeare or Samuel Daniel, I've got heavy duty ethos going on, that I've got some established authority about the topic. So using authority, either referring to authority or you yourself establishing your own authority when you write about something. Why do you have the ability? Jocelyn, you're back there. We're broken down by topics we're covering. So ethos is using authority and some form of validation of why your view makes more sense than others, or using the view of someone else. Pathos. What is pathos? Sarah? Emotions. So appealing to someone's emotions. And certainly that's the way many essays just sort of start and finish. They're just, and a lot of essays about AI will start with about how horrible it is. It's just ruining us the way we think. It's going to destroy humanity, just like the Terminator. That is using pathos for the most part. There might be a little bit of logic to it, but it's basically appealing to emotion. Anyway, you're going to be doing these readings on Purdue OWL about what is an argumentative essay, how to develop strong thesis statements, and then using rhetorical strategies or ways of convincing people. So you're going to do those readings, and then I want you to identify a question related to artificial intelligence that you think you might want to address for your essay. So you identify that question to me. Develop a tentative thesis statement. So you're going to have a reading about developing a strong thesis statement. You can try to develop your thesis statement, what you think about it, and 3 possible arguments that you might make in a paper about it, in an essay about it. And I'd like one example of each: logos, ethos, and pathos, recognizing that sometimes it's unclear. Sometimes an argument uses both. Use authority and appeal to logic, or use appeal to logic and emotion. In any case, you're going to develop 3 possible arguments about it, and then I'm also going to look for you to develop a counter argument about it. You're going to read about how a good argumentative essay includes opposing point of views, addresses them, recognizes that they're out there, and ideally in some way describes why either they're wrong or maybe they're right, but not as important as this other point of view. So these are things you're going to need for Tuesday for a specific question surrounding AI. And the reason why I introduced this early before we have our discussion is think about what you posted in the discussion board, because you're already part of the way there, possibly, in addressing Tuesday's assignment. And think about what you're talking about in your group, and listen to the other groups. We're going to come back together and present about our topics. And maybe you determine from today your topic isn't really the one you like, but that other group has a really good idea about it. So listen up for them. And as you're presenting to others, think about that people are listening to you in advance of Tuesday's assignment and in advance of the essay that you're ultimately going to need to do about this in a few weeks. Yeah. So we'll discuss some further details of this particular assignment at the end of class. Any questions about this for now? It's not the most important thing yet. Okay, so you are in your groups based on the topics that you chose to write about for today. One, I combined the topic of does AI diminish the students' ability to think critically, and should AI be permitted in college? So that group is sitting over here. They all read articles related to that. Then there's a group specific to writing. Why do we write, and how does AI impact the way we teach writing? That group is over here. So there they are. We've got a group on the risks associated with AI, many things that are negative about AI. What is going on out there? What's that? Oh, okay. I don't know. Hopefully it'll quiet down. Anyway, so the risks associated with AI are over here. And then we've got 2 groups on how AI can be used effectively in a classroom setting. You both read the same article, so you'll be talking, each discussing the same article, but probably come up with different ways of doing it. I'm going to leave you on your own to talk about this, but I'm going to actually come around, and I hope no one minds. I'm going to do some filming on Zoom of your discussion. And I want you to, during your discussion, talk generally about the reading you did, about your views on it, but you have a target. When we come back together as a class and talk about this, we're going to go around the room, and each group can say what question you were addressing, what article did you read? So identify the title and the author of the article. What main arguments did it make, or what findings did it have? What was in the article, sort of a summary of it? And what was its point of view? Does the author have a particular point of view? And was that principally what was came across in it? Especially if that's the case, does the article consider alternate point of views or opposing viewpoints? Did you find your article to be a comprehensive review of your topic? If not, what's missing? And how would you supplement it with further research? And truthfully, that is whether you saw it as complete or not. What do you think would be an article that you'd look for that might cover something that wasn't in there? What question are you addressing? You're going to describe the article that you all read. Then move on to what you guys think of it. What's your own view of the issue that you were addressing and of your article? Does your group reach a consensus on the question raised? Maybe you have collectively a thesis statement. Or are there alternate points of view? Are you split on it? Do some feel this way in our group, some feel that way in our group? We may not get to this. We'll see how much time we have. What do you see as real world implications of the things that you talked about? Now, we're talking about a very, very current topic. And one thing to think about, we're discussing artificial intelligence, and there's a lot of focus on ChatGPT. It is still under 1 year since ChatGPT was released. It was last November. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we are really on the cutting edge of this. And that's part of why I want to record it, because I think we'll think about it very differently in a year. And I think it's going to make an interesting documentary or something. It'll certainly be available to you guys. I'll see if, with permission, maybe we make it available to a wider audience. But in any case, what are the real world implications of the thing you're talking about? So as you're in your group, get prepared to address these questions and be prepared to listen to the other group and either question them about their topic or possibly challenge them on it. Maybe you disagree with their conclusion and you want to say, hey, did you guys even talk about this? Didn't you take that into account? So this is something you're going to do in your group. Let's see. We'll probably do this for about 20 minutes, I think, and then come back together and discuss as a group. Any questions on what you're going to be doing in these breakout groups? Anything? No? Okay, go at it. And I'm going to leave you guys alone for a little bit, and then I'll come back. I'm going to go get some water, and then I'll come back and just move around, film a little bit of your discussion, and be available for questions if you have questions for me. Okay, see you in a little bit. Oops. Well, not everyone at once here.
What was your final one? I think you made a mistake. What article did you what number did you okay. Is she yeah. We're it's gonna make I don't know why I combined that. I really didn't. I didn't read the second one. My baby is going back to Richmond. What's going to happen? I said, red, said, whatever they told me. Said I read it. But I had a keen interest in the first one. Why I it's not because I love how the it talks about why did I why I write, why we write. In my other question, what do you say on chip? He also speaks on all those four questions that one should use when writing. I believe speaking on should light on writing. And these guys feel like clarity when it comes to I'm personally I don't like yeah. I enjoy my own. Yes. He can find us again. What was your business? Did you learn nothing? Like there's all they're getting their doctor. And this is in everyone, and I understand. It's one of those things where if they have that, like that, it goes in class. I mean, if they're going to PhD, they're already interning as awesome. They're usually yeah. I asked it to me, it's not like it's just about that was more of
Okay, you guys are up first, so how's it going?
you set her up for failure.
I said, oh, okay, why did I do that? Anything can be bad.
She's arguing that it's good.
Well, I'm saying that like they're so intentional being like the words they am from like which I feel like she kind of was like a little unbiased about it. She said something like, you know, it depends on the person. I do agree with the other people really ladies that do everything through there.
Right.
Personally, I wouldn't go that route. So for me, it's like it's easier to imagine that it could be.
Right. So what arguments do you use with the naysayers about like why is what we're doing in our class wrong? Because you're allowed to use ChatGPT.
I tried.
What do you guys think?
Talking with medical professionals or something, I was like,
But like if medical professionals are using it to do their homework for them,
Uh-huh.
I mean, those are the people that are going to be quote unquote saving lives.
Right.
But if they're using ChatGPT exclusively.
So do you trust your one doctor rather than like the entire medical profession that might have a database of clinical things?
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of depends on the situation, you know what I mean? But it's one of those things where just the more people become reliant on it, the less people are going to know in the future.
So what reading did you guys?
We all did question 6 and she did 3.
So what was question 3?
Question 3 was, should AI be permitted in college? Question 6 is how to use the AI in learning, dimensioning students.
Back to you.
Yeah.
And I tried to use
We got sort oh, shoot.
Keep talking.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It really is. We already have.
Here, you guys are on camera now. About to come over here when we're done. So you better be talking.
I'll see how they go.
Take down what's on the. I'm just gonna
See myself? Oh, you're looking that way. Oh, I'm over here like covering the side of like I
If it has a lot of negative ramifications,
Okay.
which it does, we're not gonna make it go away. If the design. Right.
So like, it's actual, like, this is important. And like, it is what it's, like, it's not a prediction, it's just like what's been around. Right? Yeah.
How to use something, but then they can
Say that they're really outweighs the bad, and like putting regulations and like restrict how far it can go, you know?
And they know.
Talking about how, like, the AI is leading,
Probably yes.
but like,
Don't get that.
standard, I guess. I forgot what to say. It's like, I mean, the people.
Okay, so how's it going over here? Sorry to interrupt. What are you guys talking about?
We feel like there's not really much to do about like everybody thing. I think everybody knows that there are risks right in it.
Uh-huh.
The article, at least the first one, talked mostly about like non-writing. It's like just like the deep fake taking over jobs.
Yeah, which I mean, even so, if you're gonna consider it for writing, is it appropriate for us to be using a tool that does all these bad things?
Yeah, they even making scams and stuff like.
Yeah, it can do scams, it's, political, people can use politics to completely make up lies, right? And it makes up lies on its own, you almost don't even need to do it for it. So, maybe it is pretty simple in a way, but what does that mean? Does he abandon it? Or does it mean we have to somehow take those into account?
I think we can fix it, or just use it carefully,
I'm sorry,
I think we can like fix it or use it carefully.
use it carefully.
Yeah, so doing it in like some completely other way, like, we don't have to do.
Yeah, but though unfortunately, the majority of the population is not going to be informed how to use it carefully. It's just going to be out there.
We could promote it more.
We could promote it more. When you try to do that, you meet up against those who say all you're doing, for instance, I'm sort of promoting it, or I'm doing it with some trepidation, not sure. I meet up against those that say all you're doing is teaching people how to cheat and not think. There's validity to that. And also on top of that, say, a friend of mine, who's a professor here, Dan Valero, says this whole thing was basically developed by tech people trying to make money. It's just like all the other bad things that we've done, we've adopted, that they forced upon us. So what we have to do is reject it and rebel against it.
Maybe that's how the older generation feels. Feel like, we're like, I don't know, people consider it, there's gonna be a lot of people who like, they just want to advance it more and more, like out of curiosity or.
Yeah. But and there's certainly a generational divide on it, but it's not as stark. It's not like all old people.
Yeah, I
want to
know.
ignore it. And you've got Tyler over here who's firmly against it. He's a lot younger than me. So anyway, but make sure you're getting ready for what we're going to talk about. Maybe I'll put back up on the board what we need to be ready to talk about. Get back together as a group. So get ready, whoever's going to talk on your behalf. Look how ready Haley is to offer you. Maybe even to nominate Haley.
I'll throw you guys under the bus so fast.
Look, you're on TV.
I don't like
So where do you guys stand?
Talking about how like the author like made a chart. It was talking about the benefits and like the risks and how like it was good that he like didn't take like a certain like position. He was just kind of like flexing it. And like he even like I was trying to like compare it back to the class because like in his position, he even says like it's like he said the impact on education is going to be profound. We know this, it's already happening. While this is an unsettled time for educators, it's also tremendously exciting.
So
So, like-
let me ask you about this guy. Do you know anything about him?
No.
No, he's the guy who you've already seen in the video. He's on, his name is Ethan Malik. He teaches at Wharton. He's the guy who has a series of videos that we watched. The one on introduction to AI and developing prompts, which is done like this. He is neutral in some ways.
So somebody unplugged that, if you unplug one, it throws off all the screens.
Oh.
So, and just double check that, that's what it was.
Oh, okay, so we're now all up. Okay, thank
I
you.
left that one off so nobody's at that table.
Okay, thank you, Terrence, I appreciate it. So this guy is unbiased in that he, teaches and he's determined this on his own. But he has become what I would call a cheerleader for AI.
Yeah.
He's very,
He's trying to like put it's also like the fact that like it's gonna be like refused.
right. He does admit the negatives
He
about
does.
it.
That's the thing that's like, I don't explain it. He's like pushing towards AI, but he's also like, but this is the negative side.
Right,
You know?
right. So he's aware of
Yeah.
but in terms of point of view, which is one of the things to think about, he's established a fairly firm position that he's pro using AI in education, that it needs to be used. So anyway, I'll leave you guys alone and move over to these guys. Hello, group. You're on TV. See, this is the way you're going to look in the video. So, what have you guys been talking about?
You got it.
Michelle, go ahead.
We were basically saying how the article is very broad and not really like it's not really useful in a way
Uh-huh.
because we feel like they gave us all these examples and all these prompts to use, but they didn't actually like apply it to students to see how they react to it.
So, so tell me what articles did you guys read? Article?
It was the article.
7 ways. So it's the same article these guys just read. So you found it general. One thing I pointed out to them, I don't know if you heard me, do you know anything about the author of this or authors of this? So his name is Ethan Malik, and you've seen him. He was the guy on the video, or videos that I showed you, about AI in general. So introducing you to AI and ChatGPT and developing prompts from AI and ChatGPT. So even though he's neutral in a lot of ways, it's not like he, represents the company, OpenAI or anything, but he has become a major spokesperson for the ought to be using this in education. So he's pretty clear on his perspective on it. Now, does that mean that's the only thing he says in the article? No, he admits some of the negatives. But nevertheless, it is from a point of view of we ought to be using it. So from someone who believes that. Then I've got all of you. But it's interesting. So you have the same article, but it's a very different reaction in some ways than this. So what question does this fit under the category of? Like what would you say is the issue or question that you're addressing by reading this article?
How AI should be used.
How AI can be used effectively in a classroom, and does it help you answer that question?
Not really.
Not really.
You're saying like that example that you showed, like you put it in and like interacted with it, but it was like kind of interacting with it like as his position with like a teacher, not really as a student would. And like his questions or responses were just really like smart sounding stuff. Like students wouldn't really work with that.
Hey, it's the Wharton professor. So that's interesting. Okay, well, make sure you're getting ready to talk to the group about to the whole class about it, and I'll put back up in a moment the things to be ready to address when we get back together as a class. Thank you. Okay, my last week, you're on TV. So what have you guys been talking about? Not much?
I mean,
So, mainly there are two articles or two questions. That's one each, like, not it's one like clash with each other since they're like.
it's kind of like, why do we write not using it? And this is like more like integrating it within the classroom.
Right, so you got, so it's a couple of very different perspectives.
Yeah,
in your articles.
Yeah. But we've been trying to make some kind of correlation between the two.
Kind of little.
Yeah, it's been a little tough.
But how do you guys personally feel about like the issue, you know, that does it change the way we write, ought it to change the way we write, ought it be incorporated into the teaching of writing?
I feel like it's gonna change in the future. It's gonna like part of what the author was saying. Since he was an educator, he was like it's gonna eventually be integrated into classrooms and it's gonna be used within classrooms, not used like it's gonna be taught about.
Right, and that was Leon Spurs is the guy's name, I think.
That was theirs, yeah.
So he's got a whole series of columns and very interesting essays, and he's on the cutting edge of how to integrate it into education. He's written a whole book about it, a very effective one. So he certainly has a perspective. Does he only present that perspective? Does he at all?
He prevents the negative. Like he says the negatives too. He says like AI doesn't have a personal voice, and educators can teach personal voices. And stuff.
I think that's kind of where we make the correlation,
Right.
honestly, because Romero was the one that I read the second article a little bit, but I really stuck. Like the first one was because he brought up George Orwell and all that and why I write.
Yeah.
And just talk about you still have to go through the writing experience. Like you still have to learn. You can't just rely.
Right. So somehow you need to, these are almost contradictory, aren't they? The one says writing is using your personal voice. The other is, well, there's a machine that can do, at least in part, do this for you. How do you reconcile that in the real world, in a class like this? If you had to answer the question of should AI be permitted, should ChatGPT be permitted in a freshman writing class? Should it be promoted and used in a freshman writing class? Based on these, your readings, where do you think you come out?
Yes, but with restrictions, have some kind of. It can't just be this free.
Just, hey, we can use ChatGPT, go find out what it is, and good luck.
I would say wait it out into the future. That's what the article was saying. It was like just wait it out.
As it improves.
Yeah, and certainly that's a big part of the issue currently with AI. It's in its very formative stages, especially this generative AI, and especially the part about writing. It's very likely in a couple of years to be quite different. Though it'll probably still have a fair number of the issues that it currently has. Okay, well, I'm gonna put up on the back on everyone's board the sort of things you need to be ready to talk about to the groups, and make sure you're getting ready to do that. So. Okay, you can have maybe 5 more minutes and start thinking about the things that you're going to talk to the whole group about. So I am going to put back up. So think about these questions or issues.
Pretty sure.
Maybe 5. If I sense quiet, yeah, you're welcome to go to use the restroom. Then we're gonna do the greater of 2 more minutes or when Tyler returns. All right, I told them it was either 2 minutes or when you're back. It's when you're back. Yeah. Look at me. Beautiful. Thank you, Haley. I appreciate it. Okay, so my God, this is awful. Okay, so hopefully everyone is ready to speak to the group about what you've talked about and what was up on, the sorts of things that were up on the board. Do I have any volunteer for the first group that wants to speak? Not everyone at once. Oh, look at that! I've got a volunteer. Excellent, awesome. Thank you, guys. You're on. Go ahead. So what did you guys talk about? What did you read?
So for our article, it was the 7 ways of using AI in classroom. The article that we read wasn't very two-sided. Like, it was mostly prose. The author wanted us to feel like this is a good thing. We can trust it. It's good in the classroom. It has like 7 ways of how to properly use AI.
What are the sorts of 7 ways that it describes?
So we have a mentor, we have a tutor, and we have coach. 3 of those sound like exactly the same kind of, in which providing feedback or just direction to your problems. So I didn't feel, or personally, I didn't feel like those were very different. And then he only gave us like 2 examples.
Yeah. He said there were 7 ways,
Yeah.
and he only mentioned 2.
Just so you know about this is interesting. You guys studied the same article. There's a much larger study that's referred to in the article. He provides a link to it, and there's a link to it on D2L. So he covers every one of them. It's like a 20-page article, very in-depth scholarly article where he covers every single one of those 7. So in terms of the idea of it doesn't have the depth, it is backed up by an article that does have much more depth, or a study that has much more depth. But But you're 100% right, Susan, that he has a you know, a real perspective on it. And who was the author of the article? Ethan Malik, and who's he? Actually, he's the professor. You guys talked about the same, discussed the same article. So do you know who he is?
Isn't he a teacher?
At the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School, which is a business school. So what is this guy, professor of business school, doing, talking about why we all should use AI for education in general? Might be an open question. But what did you guys think of the article in the perspective?
We thought it was very broad, like it has some good examples, like it has like examples and stuff, but it's really in the perspective of the teacher and not the students. So it's kind of just giving examples of how teachers can help students, but not how students can use it like on a daily basis and stuff.
As students, did you think what he discussed was helpful? Could you see using it?
We think yes and no, like the prompts he gave were useful, you can use it, but you know, students are going to be students and I don't know if they'll work with the prompts as well as he did since he was just talking to it like a teacher.
Yeah.
And also there's still like ways of cracking it, so they can easily just crack it and just cheat their way out of it like students.
Yeah.
Use AI.
Interesting. So so it sounds like you guys had a somewhat negative perspective on the article when you came here, or by putting words in your mouth. What did you think, and how it addresses the question, are there effective ways to use it in a classroom setting, ChatGPT? What did you think?
Okay, so wait, can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So based on this article, how would you address the question, are there effective ways to use ChatGPT in a classroom setting?
I definitely think there are effective ways. You just have to, like, as it says, like you have to put a lot of prompts in it. And I don't know, you kind of have to identify what you're going to do. So it's like you can be a mentor, you can be a coach. So there's like a lot of different steps you have to go to use it effectively.
Right.
And I don't know if people are going to do that. So yeah.
How about you guys? How do you feel about that question of based on at least this article? Are there effective ways to use AI and ChatGPT in a classroom setting?
Yeah, like we were discussing, like there's definitely effective ways to do it, but there's also ways that people abuse that. So even as many effective ways as there are, there's many ways to abuse it.
There's the pure cheating.
Yeah. And so that's why, like, even like the author was just like inappropriate fidelity, like they're just going to cheat, but or outsourcing thinking rather than work.
Yeah. And he also admits the downsides of it,
Yeah.
the hallucinations, and just it generates bad information.
And so, but I think if like you go forward in practicing how to use it effectively and showing people, I feel like majority of students would appreciate that, but some of them, like you can't stop them from doing that. So, yeah.
Okay, so these two groups discussed the same article and topic. Anyone want to volunteer to go next with their topic? Okay, you guys are nominated because you're on the same side of the room as the rest. Sorry. Okay, so what was your article? What did you guys read
So
about?
we actually had two separate articles. They I don't know, what was your article?
How does AI impact learning?
So how does AI impact writing? The teaching of, how does AI impact the teaching of writing?
And we had why do we write?
Why do we write?
Which was two separate articles. So a lot of contradiction.
And what was the, when you say contradiction, like what were the perspectives?
Well, I think that contradiction meaning like, especially the first article written by Romero, it was all about why he doesn't use it at all, and just, you know, goes off of his enthusiasm to write and his love of writing, while theirs was more about starting integrating it within the classroom. And
So if you wanted to write an essay about how AI should not be used for writing, would you recommend that article as a source of research for it?
Yeah, I
Are
think
we
it was,
listening up?
I think it was a good article. He went pretty in depth about why he does these and why others shouldn't.
And does it have a connection to this class?
To us using it or not?
The article, that specific article and what it talks about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's
Well,
definitely a connection.
I'm fishing here, but what does he use as an author who demonstrates why you shouldn't use ChatGPT to write? You mentioned who the author is that he talks about.
George Orwell's his 4 questions about, and I actually said, so I said Romero also speaks on Orwell's 4 questions that one should use when writing, and I believe speaking on this should bring someone a whole new light on writing, as using this question should give some clarity.
So
it opens up a whole. It opens up your mind.
So I want to make sure everyone's aware. So this article specifically refers to George Orwell's essay, Why I Write, which remember was the essay that Joan Didion reacted to. We didn't have it as required reading, but it was there. It's there, and it's there for you to read as additional reading for either this essay or for a final project. So this author reacts to George Orwell's essay called Why I Write, and that's sort of what the title of this essay is based on. It says, why I, and then in parentheses, don't use ChatGPT to write. So it's like why I write, but I don't use ChatGPT. So that's one side of it, and then the other side of it is this professor who's explaining how it can be used to teach writing. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And how did you feel about what he said about it?
I felt like he was right. Like when he kept talking about like future tense, like AI is going to integrate within classrooms in the future, and how we should take it, and how we shouldn't really like panic on it. And I felt like he was right about that. So
in its current form, it might have difficulties, but he's seeing a future where we're going to take care of those, and in the meantime, it needs to be integrated into the way we teach how to write. Yeah. Janice, if you agree that that's what it said. And do you guys have a consensus as a group on how you feel about these either these 2 articles or the topic itself, or whether AI and ChatGPT should be integrated into teaching of writing?
Like I was saying earlier, I think definitely integration is sometime in the future when it's more advanced, but with restrictions. Yeah, that the teacher can actually go in there and restrict certain things from being used.
Like GGC, you can't get
yeah, but maybe not that. Maybe not banning it completely. That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We'll move over. Thank you, guys. So our big group here. So what do you guys read about and talk about?
Okay, so most of us read Article 6, which was ChatGPT is causing an educational crisis. So we said, yes, it is causing an educational crisis, but we're kind of unbiased about it. So from when we say that AI, we shouldn't like depend too much on it, because like especially like for bigger careers, like things like businesses and being a doctor and stuff like that. If you're using AI, you can't really, as people, you can't really like trust those people to like help you or to work with you. Like you don't want somebody doing, like you said, like you don't want somebody doing heart open surgery and then like they were
looking at ChatGPT. Where do I put the aorta? Yeah.
So we're basically saying we're kind of unbiased about it, but like in conclusion, we just feel like AI shouldn't be used when it comes to teaching because it's just too risky.
Too risky. Ariel, I believe you had a different view on it.
I mean, like in the aspect of that, like, yeah, I think it should be like if you're in the medical profession, I don't think you should be using it for really anything. But in the sense of like the way you've shown me to use it, I feel like doing it like that isn't bad.
So when you say the way I showed you how to use it,
like how, like let's say you're doing an essay and you're like on your, it's like your final this is your final version, and you're like, okay, what should I fix about it? And if it gives you a list of things like, hey, maybe you should add this, maybe you should add that. I don't see an issue with that. I feel like it's no different than you sending it to a teacher and then telling you the same thing.
Yeah. And what article did you read about?
It was two of them. It was what higher ed gets wrong about AI bots, and is ChatGPT here to stay in education? Not if teachers resist it.
So, and those were two very different perspectives,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So one was from a student perspective,
Mhm.
and the other was a student who says, hey, we're using it, and you guys don't really realize, what it's doing for us.
Mhm.
And the other is a teacher says, we gotta get rid of this thing. This is, in fact, I'm gonna put words in your mouth. So that's a teacher or a professor who says, you guys, like Dr. Weiss, who are bringing it to classrooms, just stop doing this because you're inviting in the devil. This is wrong, and we need to resist it currently. But it sounds like you were convinced by that.
Like, I understood what the person was saying. I was like, okay, I see where you're going with that. But at the same time, kind of like, y'all are acting like it's like the worst thing on earth when I feel like really not as bad as y'all are claiming it is.
Or as Tyler is claiming it is.
Well, to rebuttal what she was saying about the using it to like figure out what you can make better about your essay, it's one of those things where that's such a critical thinking skill that you develop when writing, is looking at your paper and thinking, what can I do to make this better? And it's one of those things where, yeah, sometimes you need help, but also sometimes if you just step away from it for a little while, give it some time, you can come back and see, oh, this is what I need to change. This is what I need to change. Or like a lot of the times if you ask a professor, they'll give you suggestions and questions.
Yeah.
They won't just tell you what to do. They'll be like, hey, what if you did this? So then you still have to critically think about what you're doing, which may not help you that much in learning, but it still works your brain. And it's one of those things where if you use AI to do it for you, your brain isn't working as much.
So you're using a bit of the argument from the essay we read, will ChatGPT kill the student essay, and compared it to riding a bicycle. You need to fall off a bicycle to learn how to ride a bicycle. And you're using a little bit of the essay that they talked about why I write or why I don't use ChatGPT to write, as what is the purpose of writing.
Yeah.
That self-discovery and learning things, that very, very hard work of writing.
The critical thinking skills.
Comes learning with it. So, okay, sounds like you've got a divergent, and anyone here want to add any further views to it?
No. In the article, like she was like, trying to give like ways to prevent people from using like badly, and then she was like, training people how to use AI without involving AI in a conversation, and using AI checkers for like every essay they submit. But I'm just like, even though like like you try to have like ways to prevent it, people might still use it. So it's just like, is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? I'm just like kind of in the middle.
Well, at some point you're gonna need to write about it and take a position if you want to write about that topic.
I can say I have like a little bit of experience I can add. So I had a 2D design class, and it's a very easy class, like it's very easy to take. But there are quizzes in there that, I don't actually need like the class to pursue anything in the future. So like what I would do for most of the quizzes, I would just search out the answers or like use AI. But if it's like something like an AP test, like AP Lang I took last year, where you would have to write like, I think it was 3 essays, you don't have an AI tool next to you for you to use this. So you have to write your first shot yourself, you have to revise it yourself, you have to do everything yourself.
So you would not have, if you had relied on AI and ChatGPT, you couldn't pass that AP.
I mean, I could, but would they allow me to?
No. Well, no, and it's probably a long time before we'll be able to allow to be used ChatGPT on an AP language test. That's my guess. Okay, thank you guys. Last group. What did you guys talk about?
We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're running out of time. Yeah.
We should go.
Okay.
So we had to read 2 articles. The second one was basically about like hallucinations that ChatGPT and like Google's Bard makes. I know Andrea like mentioned that when writing our essays about our like special interest, I guess, that we noticed that it made stuff up.
Great stuff.
And they're basically saying that it'll take like almost a year to even better that situation, but not even completely fix it. And then our first article was about like the real world like risk of AI, and some of the things it included were like how AI is disproportionately like benefiting the wealthy and like certain like companies. There's a potential for them to like monopolize on it or whatever. And then some other risks are like the deep fakes, and how also people are using AI to make like, they didn't say propaganda, but if people are using AI to make like fake news basically. And that's also something I think we need to consider like with the elections coming. And I think there's a lot of people like, if they go on social media, they don't really have like the capacity to tell, is this real or is this fake? So they'll just see a post and be like, okay, this is real. So it's kind of getting a lot like scarier, I guess, considering that now you can make like deep fakes, you can make like fake articles, you can just like make stuff up using AI.
Yep.
Other stuff we considered was how like AI is taking over jobs, and like it's gonna be bad for low skilled workers, and how it'll like make the inequality gap of like wealth like greater, because it's like the low skilled workers, people who get paid less, who are gonna be affected the most because they're not gonna have a job. Their jobs are gonna be like taken over. But yeah, I'm trying to think of like the other
copyright issues.
Yeah, there's copyright issues,
privacy
privacy concerns, and like it said that we probably need more like regulations in place to protect people. And yeah.
Anyone else from this group want to add? And thank you, Jocelyn. Want to add more to your topic of the risks associated with AI?
No, she pretty much covered it all. Like our essay didn't go there. The article didn't like cover a lot. It was like a more broad thing, which I guess makes sense because like AI is like so new and we don't exactly know all the risks yet. It's like any other like thing that's come out. You have to like have it for a while.
So that article provided an overview of the risks, but if you wanted to study, for instance, the copyright risk, you'd probably need to do a lot more research on that, I would imagine, or the privacy risks, or certainly the deep fakes and the misuse of
that's something we discussed a lot in our group, was the deep fakes and how like that more negatively affects women, and how we've seen like stories of people who like they go on forums and are like, oh, like there's this one girl, I have a picture of her, make her appear naked. Or like they're using it to make like revenge porn and like extort money out of people, how people are using like voices to call like your mom, and it'll be in your voice, and it'll be like, hey, I need money, I need help, like send me money. And they'll think it's you. And a lot of people aren't really aware of that, I think.
Yeah, so you're getting into the much broader, thank you guys, I'll come back to me. So you're getting into the much broader issues and risks associated with AI in general, not just, I mean, here we're talking about writing, but you're talking about, sort of destruction of humanity sort of risks. And lest anyone think that this is overblown, the guy who is the head of OpenAI, ChatGPT, the developer of ChatGPT, says, oh yeah, this has the potential to destroy all life on Earth, take it to its extreme, and he's serious about it. There's a really good interview with him that's available for research from a group called the Free Press, talking about the benefits and risks associated with AI. So that's something that you might want to listen to, especially if you're into the risks. If you want to hear the guy who is head of it in a way, talking about the risks, it's a good way to do it. So anyone have any questions for the group, for a group that they weren't in, about what they read? I'm going to go back to sharing screen so I don't have to look at myself anymore. About what the other group covered and how they might use it for their essay, or what additional research they might want to do ultimately for their essay. Because I mean, who said? Someone over here said about there aren't clear answers, but in this essay, I'm going to be looking, ultimately, the one that you're going to do in a couple of weeks, I'm looking for it to be an argumentative essay where you take a position and support that position. So you can admit the other side. It doesn't mean you have to say definitively, you're right, because I think the best argumentative essays are admitting that there are positives and negatives, but taken as a balance, this is where I come out. So something you can do, but yes, Sarah.
It's like if found a way to use AI and there was no like mess ups and everything, do you think it would be a positive thing? Do you think that teachers should allow students to use it then?
Great question. So let me rephrase that for the class in case anyone didn't hear it and for the recording of it. So Sarah asks, if we could deal with the issues that exist today, for instance, with misinformation and a number of the other issues, let's say we could deal with each of your issues that you addressed, and it's now generating good information. Would you then say, yes, this is an okay thing to be used in writing and in college in general? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Any views on it, Jocelyn?
If you take a look at like phones, like when they first came out, like everybody would be like, okay, no phones in school, no phones here. But like now we use phones for assignments. Like I know in high school I would need my phone for certain classes, or you would need to have a computer, or you would need to have this. So I think in the future, like it's gonna be integrated. Like, yeah.
So there's a yes question. No, Tyler?
I just think there's no way to foolproof it, to make it just completely safe where no one can misuse it, no matter what the scenario is, whether it's school or in the real world to blackmail someone. I feel like there's no way to make it completely safe. There's always going to be a way for someone to work around the system.
Yeah. So we've sort of invented the atom bomb, and it ultimately is going to be used for bad, more than good or in a destructive way. I think there's, like everything we address in this class, there is no right answer to it. It's all a matter of what's your answer and how do you support it. So, but I really like the way you put that question, Sarah. So I'm glad you raised it. Okay, so your assignment for Tuesday is to read these 3 articles on Purdue OWL, and this is on D2L. So you can take a picture of this, it's fine, but it's on D2L. Read these 3 pages or parts of the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and then to identify a specific issue or question that you want to address with respect to AI, to put out a tentative thesis. Now, all of this, you can change your mind about what you actually write about, or you can even say, I'm going to do this for this assignment, but it's not really what I'm interested in. It's just, this is easier for this assignment. So what's an issue? What is your thesis statement about it? 3 possible arguments you might make about it. One which employs more logos or logic, one which employs more ethos or authority, and a third that employs more pathos or emotion. And then raise a counter argument to be addressed while you're researching it. So in doing that, you might want to take a look at the discussion board of what others have already said about these topics. Think about today's discussion, and you're going to put that in as a submission, a text submission to me. So that's it. See you guys next Tuesday. And thank you for a very good discussion. And as usual, put your name tags on the front desk.
How do you want me to do the assignments that I like once we start actually writing the essay?
Right.
How do you want me to do the assignments since I want to
Right.
an essay?
You're going to write about your podcast.
Okay.
And describe the argumentative aspects of it, like what and then perhaps add your own personal opinion after the fact.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
But
I was going to write about the process of making it, how I had to come up with the questions,
Right.
the process of actually sitting down doing it, the process of editing it and all that.
right, and how it impacts your thinking.
Okay.
And you'll need to include it, hopefully somewhere in the discussions, you'll be referring to one or more of the readings for class.
Yeah, I've got one that you provided for us and one that I found on my own.
So when you refer to that, you'll use MLA format for that.
Okay,
So it's really to MLA format.
thank you.
Just start.
Like, I know most of the topics that the class had was like, had some sort of relation to like writing or like school, you know, in
Right.
an academic standpoint of AI. So when we do the essays, does it have to be that way?
Not at all, not at all. You can address the broader implications of AI. And one that no one chose this topic or listened to it or read it, but the one that's called the matrix theory of the mind, and maybe I didn't fully describe it well enough. That's a really good essay
I
about
was
it.
gonna do that one, but when I was reading the topics, I was like, oh, everybody's gonna pick this one, so I'm gonna do
That's
two.
funny, and no one picked
And
it.
I was really shocked when I was reading, I was like, everybody did the ones that
So-
that I thought nobody was gonna do.
I'd be really interested in your thoughts on the broader implications of AI, and take into account what he says in that. And you can listen to it as a podcast and read it, so it's cool from that standpoint. So definitely you can address it from a broader perspective.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome, Jocelyn. See ya.